Appreciate it. Uh, First item of business is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Dan and Jack, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Approval of the minutes of August 14th.
Moved.
Second.
Bruce and Ann. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Director's report.
I have nothing today.
Okay, bike count.
Like that.
Okay, bike count reminders.
Afternoon. So I decorated for you all so that you could see it's bike count time. And we have all of our slots on Saturday filled up, but we have some open slots on Thursday. And I'll tell you, the Keachai, Mulvane, Goddard, and Hayesville slots are empty. So on Thursday, so if you all want to have those sites counted, and then we got 9 slots in Wichita that are empty also, I need some help. So if you could spread the word, or if you would like to take home one of these lovely safety vests temporarily, you can volunteer today. And so that's going to be next Thursday, the 20th, from 5 to 7. So you can just get with me after the meeting so that we can sign you up.
Thank you. Okay, item D, the consent agenda. There you want to take off or discuss?
Motion we approve. Second.
Tom and Bruce to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public comment opportunity. Anybody? Yes, ma'am. If you go to the podium and state name and address, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you. My name is Jane Burns. I'm at 322 South Lorraine in Wichita. I speak occasionally on behalf of walkability, of alternate transportation, but walkability in general. Generally, because I'm a health professional, I talk about health, about walking, reducing blood pressure, reducing blood sugar, normalizing weight, releasing stress, and for neighborhood safety, for air quality. Today I'd like to speak for another constituency. Generally, I talk about kids and seniors and handicapped and, like James Chung, millennials. But also, I read about a man killed walking on in the 5900 block of North Meridian. So I went there in a series of errands this morning and I checked that out. And as suspected, yes, there was a sidewalk much of Meridian on one side or the other, and some places there's no sidewalk. So today, I'd like to speak on behalf of, and I don't know that man at all. All I know is what I read in the newspaper, that he possibly was under the influence of alcohol. Now, folks who are really interested in streets, do you want someone who's got a lot of alcohol driving a car, or do you want them walking safely on sidewalks? When we emphasize streets to the sacrifice of walkability, we're putting more danger on streets. So, are there any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else like to address? Okay. Moving on to new business update, coordinated plan. Trish?
I'm back. So Trisha Thomas, I don't have a PowerPoint for you today, but you have quite a bit of information on your tablets under this agenda item. In there you'll see our coordinated plan. I've talked about it a couple of times, what we're doing. This is the plan that identifies the needs for people with disabilities, older adults, and low-income populations. So this is the public transportation needs. In your electronic documents, you'll see that there's a summary of everything that's happened since we started this process. And then there's a summary of the community survey results, similar to what you saw when we presented on those candidate projects. This is going to identify some of the theme areas like accessibility and cost and quality of place, and then senior and disability issues. But also attached to that are all of the comments that we saw. And a lot of them were really compelling, talking about what it's like traveling when you're an older adult or with a disability in Wichita and around our region. So I would encourage you to read through those. There's about 20 seniors who commented who live at Somerset Plaza here in Wichita, who were greatly affected by the removal of a bus stop in front of their location. And so it's really interesting to see through the eyes of people who really use the transportation system. Also, on your table, you'll have a sneak peek. This is the executive summary of our coordinated plan. So this is still in draft format. I hope as you guys look at it, you'll consider what you're seeing. I'm open to edits or revisions or suggestions. Any feedback that you all have received in your areas, I'm happy to incorporate also. I'm just going to go through it really quick, this executive summary. On this first page, you'll see that we talk about why we're doing it and what it is. Before in 2013, when our plan was created, it was for the whole coordinated transit district area, which incorporated multiple counties. Now, Kansas Department of Transportation is taking care of the rural area, and we're going to update the urbanized area based on the census geography. So this will focus on that section. So on that first page, the community profile, it just shows what the percentages are of people in those target populations that I listed. And we also added in these no vehicle available households just to show you what that might look like. Then on the next page, this pie chart, this is transportation providers by type. It just gives you the distribution of the types of transportation providers there are, and then after that are the survey results. Those were those theme areas that I was talking about earlier. And then on the next 2 pages, you'll see the updated strategies. So we had a very large amount of strategies the last time we did this plan, and we tried to consolidate these under the theme areas that we heard through the public engagement process, and also to bring forward some of the really important stuff that we had from 2013. So this is a draft. The last thing on this page is our first attempt to basically align the 5310 FTA funding scoring with the goals and strategies of our new plan. So in the fuller document, you'll see these criteria 1 through 5 will be defined more clearly, but I just wanted you all to have a snapshot of what the document will have, and I'm hoping to get it out in the maybe next week for public comment, and then we'll be back here again in October for you to consider the final document. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update. Wampo funding project list. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Weber. Fine with it?
Good afternoon. Again, I'm Jim Weber. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works for the county, Sedgwick County. He's from Butler County, so let's keep it straight.
Pointing that out.
No, I don't know which county I'm working for right now, but there are several documents that Wampo works with, but 2 of the primary planning documents are the long-range plan. The current plan is the Move 2040, and we need to do a new plan every 4 to 5 years. These plans include all regionally significant projects, and they must be fiscally constrained. So this would include any major project that a local governing body is doing, or the state, even if it doesn't have federal money in it. The second one that we work with is a short-range plan that's called the Transportation Improvement Program. Those can vary, but we're currently working with a 4-year plan that we update every 2 years. So we're working on a TIP update right now. The current plan covered the years 2017 through 2020. The new plan would cover 19 to 22, so they overlap. The spending plan for all federal funds in the region has to be included in this TIP plan. There's a real heavy focus on the work that we do in terms of focusing on the Wampo funds, the funds we actually get to kind of allocate and control. And that's about $12 million a year. So 2019 and 2020 funded projects that are in the current plan carry over into the next plan, and we make adjustments based on, better information, requests that get made because the budget's going up, or maybe the budget's going down, or the scope needed to change. But in general, those plans get carried over, and the idea is that we need about a 4-year planning horizon for the engineers and everybody to get their work done and get a project ready to go. So we really have, it really has to start at the beginning of these plans. This is an update for the TIP, the timeline for the TIP update. So the policy body approved selection criteria and a grading rubric to be used. There was an application period. There was a 30-day application period. Wampo used all their best public awareness tools to get the word out that we were doing a call for projects. The Wampo staff ran a public input process using their software input tool. You've heard about that in recent meetings. That seemed to be pretty powerful this time around. The project selection committee was appointed by the TPP chairman, which at the time was Mr. Meitzner. So our esteemed chair now was on the committee. Normally wouldn't happen, but because of the timing of the transition, that's how it worked. The selection committee reviews all the applications, met with all the applicants. They were all given an opportunity to give a complete presentation on their project and sat down and rated the projects. They prepared a funding recommendation that was presented to the TAC at their last meeting, and the last step is that the policy body would take action on the funding proposal, and that's what we're up to today. So this is just a quick list of the selection committee members. Dan Wajak was the chairman of the committee, Paul Gunzelman, the assistant city engineer for Wichita, Ann Stevens, who's the director of public works for Bel Air, myself, and Darius Wright, who's a principal in Kansas Business Services, LLC, which was, I think, helpful. Darius is not a government employee or appointed or elected officials of any kind, but his input, I think, was helpful in this round to have somebody. I think it helps those of us that have been doing it so long to have somebody from the outside come in and ask basic questions like, why are we doing it like this? And then you have to answer the question. It makes you think about what you're doing. So I had a good time with Darius, actually. Unfortunately, I think they got him roped into the next committee. It's good for us. We received 15 applications totaling $24.3 million. There was a project in there that you dealt with in a previous meeting, the Meridian pedestrian bridge, that had been submitted for this next round in the TIP, but was moved up to 2018 in order to absorb $2.9 million in deobligated 2018 funds. Hayesville and Valley Center had a couple of projects that, after some discussion, were expanded a little bit past the city limits to get to a better ending point, something that made more sense for the system as a whole. And in the end, all applications were programmed, and there was still $1.9 million left that could be programmed in 2 years in the next funding cycle. So in the end, we had a funding proposal that includes 14 new projects, 14 projects totaling $23.2 million in the 19 to 22 TIP. The TAC reviewed that recommendation on the August 27th meeting, and they've recommended that the policy body approve the funding proposal as it was prepared by the project selection committee. Talk a little bit about next steps. Move 2040 Amendment number 5 is due to be presented for TAC consideration at the September meeting in a couple of weeks. And then that recommendation, whatever they come up with, would be presented to the policy body meeting at your next meeting in October. The funding list would be included in the updated TIP document, which is scheduled for review by the TAC in the September meeting, and again by the policy body in the October meeting. We've got a menu of actions you could take. You could approve the Wampo funding proposal as it's been proposed and recommended to you by the TAC. You could not approve it. You could approve it with specific changes. You can table it, or you could send it back to the TAC for additional consideration. And I'd be happy to try to answer, Chairman Wajak would be happy to try to answer any questions you might have about what we did. One of us will try to handle it if you have any questions.
And I got a question. So there's kind of a consistent theme here, but so it seems like the world is moves quickly, and the flexibility that I think our policy body could have, I don't know how we incorporate that into this process. For instance, the city and the region is going to benefit from AAA baseball, and one of the amenities that was required is to have a pedestrian bridge over the river. So, but it's not in the 2040 plan. It's not anywhere to even be considered for federal funding. That's just an example, and I'm not asking it to be done because it's probably impossible to do under the current multiple steps. So and my theme is for us to somehow have exceptions and be able to react quicker like the world reacts and the region reacts, and why Wampo doesn't react, to me, is it doesn't react and as flexible as it could be as a policy body and as a committee.
Well, when aren't we looking at amending the 2040? Aren't we in the process? Is that?
Yes, sir. We just started the process of kind of rethinking Move 2040 to try to come up with some different ideas of how we can make things more regionally significant and how we can make things on a higher priority basis.
With the 30-month constraint, how can we make things more flexible? I guess that probably is going to be the question. Because we have, by the time we get through the process through the state and then this, that, and the other thing. But we still need to, I agree, we still need to be able to come in and say, just like we moved the bridge up, from 1 year to another, we need to be able to, at least yearly, annually, how often are we looking at the program? Every 5 years, but we probably should just as overall take a look at the project and say, hey, let's amend it for 48 months out or 36 months out or whatever to get into that timeline where we can get funding and through the process. Or I know one of the things we discussed with the state and the feds at one point in time was if there was money that was on the table that one of the entities was prepared to go forward with, kind of like they used to bank the money, we would go turn money over to one of the entities, and then as it came up, they would pay it, back into the system. It probably Sedgwick County and Wichita are the two entities that have the capital or CIP plans available to do something like that. But there may be, just like that bridge, we moved one up, maybe another thing that we could pop in there and you guys pay forward and then we come back. I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah, I know. And then we had the challenge of the deobligated funds at the end of the year,
right,
which is another. I just think if we have staff and others to focus on flexibility to move in a good direction, would be.
One of the things that we're trying to develop a method for cutting down the 25-year length of projects in the new MTP, of maybe doing it in 5 different project eras that can be changed or amended to where if a higher priority does come up, it's the second era, it can be amended to go into the first era and kind of change the way that the priorities are based. We're also looking at different ways of maybe developing different buckets of funding for road and bridges, for planning type projects, for other things that might give us a little bit more leeway into how we're planning for a longer term that really is more realistic in terms of what's out there, what money we have, and how we can try to fit these things together.
But we have to, I agree, we have to become more flexible, especially in this day and age as the funding shifts. And I mean, we between the federal government and our own local funds, I mean, we have to be more flexible all the time. So I think anytime we look at the overall picture on how we can become that way. So I think we've started on that process. It's just like that. It's going to be slow, but it'll happen. I think we're at a good point by going back into looking at the 2040 program. I think it's time to look at it, discuss it. So, any other questions relative to the projects? Thank you, Jim. You did a good job. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
We need a motion to approve the funding project list.
Approve the funding project proposals as proposed.
Bruce and Ann, motion second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Alrighty. Committee meeting. Executive committee, we did meet. We had a few items. One of them was approved under an agenda. We AGH doing our audit, all the paperwork and everything, and turned over to them. And so they're working on that to get that. We also are going to be sending out an RFP for accounting. I know the city of Wichita has been doing that for us, and as we keep striding toward independence, we need to do that on our own. And so we're going to be looking at probably a different, we don't want the guys that are doing our audit be doing our day-to-day, so we're trying to develop that for your recommendation and approval to go out for the RFP. And we also are working on, as we just talked about, year-end funds and a smoother way to try and come up with what we can do with those funds. Gentlemen, is that about some of that? Anything else to add? So we'll, as we get closer on that, we'll certainly bring all that back for your approval and input. And but like I said, we're still working on all those issues aside from the audit. We should be getting that
By the end of this month.
So hopefully Tom, TAC.
TAC, the only thing that we did that wasn't covered today is we had a presentation by Kristen on options for advanced construction and year-end balances in the future. There was it was just a discussion. So that'll be coming one of these days, I assume, back to here.
Partner reports, Tom.
Well, as promised, we still have two ramps that will open before October 5th, and that will be the westbound US 54 to northbound I-235 and eastbound US 54 to northbound I-235, the two loop ramps on the east side of the interchange. Those will open by October 5th because on Friday, October 5th, we'll have a weekend shutdown of the interchange to further some other work. So those ramps need to be open in order to make this work. So they are hurrying to get those open. They could open before October 5th, but they're guaranteed to open by that date. After that weekend closure of the 5th, 6th, and 7th, we've got some other cleanup work and another ramp to open. That will be the northbound I-235 flyover to westbound US 54. That will be the last ramp and bridges of this project. So there's some cleanup work before the snow flies, but it's moving along quite well.
Questions for Tom? Not? Mike?
Thank you, sir. I just want to remind the group, the Legislative Transportation Task Force will be in the area beginning October 4th. They'll be in Newton at the Meridian Center, and then again on the 18th in Wichita at WSU. So if you need any more specifics, let me know. Those are coming up.
Thank you. Richard's not here today. So is there any other issues by the board you'd like to bring up? Tom?
I have one. I was approached by Carolyn McGinn about a week and a half ago, about Wampo providing a representative for transportation to her subcommittee at the state level. And she's told me he's doing railroads, so, but she was looking for specifically on highways, and I don't know what that's going to involve, but they want a project list, recommendations. And then I would assume, based on the conversation I had, which was real short, that it would be a presentation of those projects. And she said they needed to be ready to go. Well, I can't think of any major project we got around here that would be ready to go, but this was a real quick discussion, so we need to probably look at having somebody representing us at that meeting, and it's in Newton. I don't know if the state can help me out with that or not.
The 4th is.
Do you have any more information than I do? Okay.
What did you say, Pete?
The 4th is in Newton, and the 18th is in Wichita. Right.
We're all going to participate in the one on the 18th.
Right. 18th. I think the Chamber's coordinating that for the 18th as well. Right, David?
We're going to get a working group together to figure out what we're going to say and who's going to say what. And I think that there will probably be more than one presentation, the way it looks to me.
2 or 3 projects?
Probably our number one presentation is going to be the North Junction. And I think all of our partners will be part of that. But I think we still, Sedgwick County will probably look at something working with Mays and Goddard on the Northwest Bypass. And we may even have a discussion on whether or not we want to do something out west on 54 so that you don't stop at the stoplight on 119th, 135th, 154th, 167th, 181st.
You need a copy of the Wampo list that we put together 4 or 5 years ago to have with you too, because whatever was on our priority list 4 or 5 years ago ought to be on our current priority list too. And it may be different order, but that list ought to be provided too. So, because that's when we were having the regional meetings, we were presenting at that time for this area, so. But anyway, she asked for a representative, and I'm probably going to see her tomorrow, so I'll try to get more information and provide it back to Dan.
But I don't think we're going up to Newton on the 4th. We're gearing up for the 18th at Hughes Metroplex.
I know we've got a project out east. I know that Butler, Steve Andover, Wichita, hopefully Sedgwick County for extending where it's done, where East Kellogg will end at 143rd project. We're concerned about dumping all that traffic into a same thing, stoplight. We'd like to see it extended out to Prairie Creek, which is 2 miles east of the county line. So that would be another one that we're certainly need. We have lots of projects out there, and we need to be sure and get with our partners and present them as a whole, because if they don't know about it, they can't tell you no, can't tell you yes.
I don't have all the information, but I got the impression this might be for found money or something too, so.
Yeah, when you talk to her, let me know, please. All right, anything else? Any other new business? We stand adjourned.